Ferrari just pulled something at Fiorano that should have been impossible to hide, and Mercedes already knows it. Over 2 days, more than 200 kilometers, in extreme wet conditions designed to expose every weakness, Ferrari ran a restricted test where no performance gains were supposed to exist. But something changed, dramatically, because the car that came out of that test didn't just look stable. It behaved like a completely different machine. No instability under braking, no hesitation on corner entry, no signs of the weakness that has limited Ferrari all season. And here's why that's a massive problem. If what Ferrari revealed is real, they may have just fixed their biggest flaw, unlocked a hidden straight-line advantage, and activated a system that could give them an edge no other team currently has, all at once. And if that shows up in Miami, this championship fight is about to flip completely. Subscribe now, because the one detail that confirms all of this comes later. At first, Fiorano looked like nothing more than routine work. A closed track, artificial rain falling with precision, a Ferrari running lap after lap, hidden from the outside world. Everything controlled, everything predictable. And that's exactly what makes this moment so important. Because Ferrari doesn't control conditions like that unless they are looking for something very specific. They weren't testing speed. They were testing weakness. They wanted the car in the worst possible scenario. Low grip, unstable surface, constant changes in balance. The kind of environment where a Formula One car cannot hide anything. And Hamilton knew exactly what to look for. The first braking zone. That's always where the truth is. Because under braking, everything loads at once. The rear can step out, the balance can shift, and the driver immediately knows if the car is working or fighting back. Before Fiorano, that moment was Ferrari's biggest problem. The rear wasn't consistent. Sometimes it held, sometimes it didn't. And that uncertainty forced both drivers to hesitate. Brake earlier, hold back, lose time without even realizing it. But this time, it didn't happen. Hamilton hit the brakes, and the car stayed with him. No movement, no correction, no warning signs, just stability, clean, controlled, predictable. And that's where everything starts to feel different. Because this wasn't supposed to change. Ferrari had no freedom to develop performance during this test. No setup evolution, no optimization from data. Everything was limited to tire evaluation only. So officially, nothing new was introduced. But unofficially, something had clearly been solved. Because Hamilton didn't stop there. He pushed harder, later breaking points, more aggressive entries, trying to force the car into the same mistakes it used to make. And the mistakes never came. Lap after lap, the behavior stayed the same. Consistent, reliable, almost predictable to the point where it felt unnatural. And in Formula One, that kind of consistency is never accidental. It's engineered. It's built over time. It's the result of solving a problem deep inside the car. A problem that most people never even see. And that's exactly why this moment matters so much. Because Ferrari didn't just complete laps at Fiorano. They revealed something far more important. A car that finally behaves the same way every single time. And once a driver feels that, everything changes. Because once consistency appears in a Formula One car, it exposes everything that was wrong before. And in Ferrari's case, that problem has always been hidden underneath the surface. The floor, not the visible parts, not the headline upgrades. The invisible foundation that controls how the car behaves every single second. This is where Ferrari has been losing time. And more importantly, losing confidence. The SF26 had an extremely narrow operating window. Too narrow. So narrow that if the ride height changed even slightly, the downforce didn't gradually decrease. It disappeared. Instantly. That's the kind of behavior drivers cannot trust. One corner feels perfect. The next corner feels completely different. And when that happens at high speed, you stop pushing. You start managing. And in Formula One, managing means losing. That's why Ferrari had no choice earlier in the season. They raised the car. They protected the balance. They avoided the edge. But every time they did that, they sacrificed performance. Straight line speed, cornering grip, overall pace, always trading potential for stability. Now here's where Fiorano changes the entire picture. Because what Hamilton experienced suggests that limitation is no longer as extreme. The car didn't collapse when pushed. It didn't lose balance when conditions changed. It stayed within its working range, even in the worst grip possible. And that tells you something critical. Ferrari has widened that window. Maybe not completely, maybe not perfectly, But enough. Enough for the driver to stop worrying about the car and start focusing on extracting performance. And that's a massive shift, because once the floor becomes stable, everything else begins to align. The airflow remains consistent. The downforce builds more progressively. The car stops reacting suddenly and starts behaving predictably. And that's exactly what Hamilton began to feel. Not just grip, not just speed, but control. The kind of control where you know exactly what the car will do before it does it. And that's when a driver becomes dangerous. Because now, instead of searching for the limit, he starts using it, braking later, carrying more speed into the corner, trusting the rear to stay in place. And every time he pushed, the car responded the same way, every single lap. And this is the moment Ferrari has been working toward. Because when the floor works, you unlock everything else. And there's one system that depends on that stability more than anything. One system Ferrari introduced and then had to hide because it was simply too unstable to use. Until now, the rear wing. This is where Ferrari's bombshell becomes impossible to ignore, because the rear wing they built was never just another upgrade. It was a gamble, a radical idea that if it worked, would give them an advantage no one else could match. But if it failed, it would make the car undrivable in the most critical moments. The concept is simple to understand, but extremely difficult to execute. Instead of opening like every other system on the grid, Ferrari's rear wing rotates completely. On the straight, it aligns with the airflow. Almost no resistance, almost no drag, which means one thing: maximum straight line speed. The kind of speed that changes overtaking. The kind of speed that forces rivals to defend differently. On paper, the gain is significant, up to a tenth per lap on circuits with long straights. But here's the problem. Speed is useless if you cannot control the car when it matters. Because the moment the driver hits the brakes, that wing has to come back, instantly, from almost zero downforce to maximum rear stability. And before Fiorano, that transition was Ferrari's biggest nightmare. Too slow, too inconsistent, just enough delay to destabilize the rear at corner entry. And that's the worst place it can happen, because that's where drivers commit. That's where mistakes become crashes. That's why Ferrari had no choice but to hold it back, even if it meant giving up straight line advantage. But now, everything points to something very different, because what Hamilton felt contradicts that weakness completely. The rear stayed planted. The braking phase felt clean. The transition almost invisible. And that only happens if Ferrari has solved the core issue, not improved it, solved it. Because fixing this isn't about one change. It requires multiple layers working together. The mechanism has to be lighter, faster, more precise. The airflow has to reconnect instantly when the wing returns. And the software controlling it has to anticipate the driver's input before it even happens. That's not an upgrade. That's a transformation. And if Ferrari has achieved that, then this system becomes something else entirely. Not a risk, but a weapon. Because now imagine this combination. A car with near zero drag on the straight, full downforce in the corners, and no instability in between. That doesn't exist anywhere else on the grid. And that's exactly why Mercedes should be concerned. Because this isn't just Ferrari catching up. This is Ferrari unlocking performance that others cannot easily replicate. But here's the detail that makes this even more dangerous. Because none of this would work without what happened underneath the car. The stable floor, the consistent platform, the confidence Hamilton felt. Everything is connected, and for the first time, it's all working together. Which leads to a much bigger question. Not whether Ferrari is faster, but how much faster they are about to become, once they stop hiding it. And this is where the situation becomes genuinely uncomfortable for Mercedes. Because what Ferrari revealed is not just speed, it's how they're planning to use it. Energy. This is the final piece. The one that turns potential into dominance or destroys it completely. All season, Ferrari has been experimenting with a different philosophy. Not saving energy, spending it aggressively, deploying maximum power in the parts of a lap where the gain is highest. Corner exits, early straights, the moments where acceleration creates separation. But that approach comes with a serious risk, because if you use too much too early, you pay for it later, at the end of the lap. At the moment you need to defend. At the moment someone attacks you. And we've already seen it. Ferrari fast at the beginning of the lap, then suddenly vulnerable, losing speed when it mattered most. That's why most teams avoid this. It's too unpredictable, too difficult to control, too easy to get wrong under pressure. But now, after Fiorano, that risk might be gone, because this strategy only works under one condition. The car must be stable, completely stable. If the rear moves even slightly, if the balance shifts under power, that extra energy becomes a problem, not an advantage. But if the platform is solid, if the car behaves the same way every time, then that energy becomes something else entirely, a weapon. And this is where everything connects. The improved floor, the controlled rear wing, the stable braking, all of it creates the perfect environment for aggressive deployment. Now Ferrari can use energy exactly where it hurts the most, not randomly, not conservatively,